43 days. 43 long days have passed since the sovereign bled, since he walked out of that mountain and proved to us, and to the silent watchers in the sky, that even gods can bleed. For 43 days, the 34 divine vein vessels have hung in high orbit, their presence a constant, silent threat. We waited, but something changed in that waiting. Fear gave way to anticipation. Down here, on the scarred surface of our world, Camp Dawn didn't just survive, it thrived. The garden Kai planted, a small patch of defiant green, has exploded into a sprawling, luminous forest. Its gentle glow is now so vast, so vibrant, it can be seen from space, a soft green jewel of life on a world that was supposed to be dead. Every day, the garden grows stronger. Every day, more survivors, drawn by whispers of safety, find their way to our gates. We've become a beacon, not of power, not yet, but of hope. While we rebuild our world, Kai was rebuilding his. Deep within his personal realm, his cultivation never ceased. For 43 days, he has floated in the heart of his domain, a vortex of swirling cosmic energies. His body, a crucible of power. His nascent soul, now seated upon a throne of condensed starlight, observes, learns, and grows in perfect sync with him. The realm itself has transformed. What was once a simple valley is now a miniature continent, its edges giving way to vast forests, towering mountain ranges, and deep, churning oceans, all born from his will. Master, a calm, synthesized voice echoes through the domain. 43 days of sustained cultivation have yielded significant advances. Your apex Genesis core has stabilized at peak efficiency. Your nascent soul has ascended to the 10th minor step of its realm. Your combat effectiveness against divine vein opponents is now effortless. Kai's eyes flutter open, and within them, entire galaxies swirl. And against higher realms? He asks, his voice resonating with newfound depth. The domain steward responds instantly, compiling data from observed energy signatures and theoretical projections. The 34 divine vein ships in orbit are no longer a threat. You could eliminate them in a matter of hours, should you choose. However, the greater powers the Rememberer warned of. They are coming. I detect multiple FTL wake signatures approximately 4.3 light-years out. Estimated time of arrival, 72 hours. Kai's expression hardens, power assessment, full breakdown, now. Acknowledged. In an instant, the space around Kai erupts into a cascade of holographic data, showing the approaching signatures in terrifying, vivid detail. 3 distinct categories of approaching entities have been identified, the steward reports. First category, Divine Territory Realm, the 12th anchor. 2 signatures detected, estimated at the 3rd and 5th minor steps. These are beings who manifest their will as external reality. Within their territory, they are effectively omnipotent. You could engage the 3rd step entity in a life-and-death battle. Victory is possible, but not guaranteed. The 5th step, however, it exceeds your current combat ceiling. Survival would be the best possible outcome. Second category, Territory Feudal Realm, the 13th anchor, 7 signatures. Minor steps range from 2 to 8. Their territories are no longer just projections of will. Their will is becoming alive, thinking, evolving independently. Any being at this level, at any minor step, entirely exceeds your combat capabilities. A direct confrontation would result in your certain destruction. Third category, Ascension Realm, the 14th anchor, 4 signatures. Minor steps range from 1 to 5. These beings have transcended mortality. The death of their physical body is meaningless. They can reform from nothing, persist as pure consciousness, exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The gap between your current power and even the first minor step of ascension is insurmountable. A single one of them could defeat you with minimal effort. A pause hangs in the air, heavy and absolute. There is also one unknown signature, the steward adds. Its power level is unmeasurable. It exceeds all sensor capabilities, registering as a void. Not an absence of energy, but an impossible containment of it. Whatever it is watching, waiting, and it is beyond any classification I possess. Kai rises to his feet, the casual confidence he's worn for weeks vanishing, replaced by a grim seriousness. The weight of the report settles on his shoulders like a physical burden. So 12 beings who could erase planets by accident. 13, if you count the unknown. And I can maybe fight 2 of them, with a coin flip's chance of winning just one. Correct, Master. Your limits are clear. He looks toward the edge of his realm, his gaze piercing through the veil of reality to the camp outside, to the thousands of people who have placed their trust, their very lives, in his hands. A bitter laugh escapes him. So I've gone from being prey to a predator, and now I'm prey all over again. Not prey, Master, the steward corrects gently. You are. Noticed. The fact that beings of the 12th, 13th, and 14th realms are traveling across the galaxy to see you personally is unprecedented. You have their attention. That is both a great danger and a great opportunity. Opportunity? How? Beings of this magnitude do not waste their time on insignificant targets. They come because they perceive you as relevant. A potential equal, an ally, a threat, or an asset. Your very existence has shifted the cosmic calculus of this sector. That in itself is a form of power. But Master, there is one more variable. What is it? The cosmic infinite ascension God Stone. It has been dormant since your trait selection, but I am detecting fluctuations, subtle, almost imperceptible. Something within it is stirring. Kai reaches into his pocket, his fingers closing around the familiar, smooth warmth of the stone. Stirring? After all this time, what does that mean? Unknown, the steward admits. The stone's nature exceeds my analytical capabilities. But I would hypothesize that the approaching powerhouses are triggering some form of response, a protective instinct, perhaps, or curiosity. It's been asleep through every battle, every breakthrough, every time I nearly died, Kai murmurs, his thumb tracing the stone's surface. Why now? Perhaps it was waiting. Waiting to see what you would become without its interference. Waiting to determine if you were truly worthy of its attention. And now, with threats that so vastly exceed your capabilities approaching, it may be preparing to act. A long silence fills the realm. Kai's gaze is fixed on the stone, his mind racing. Then a slow, determined nod. Then we face them, together, whatever happens. This is Ascension, Year 0, Episode 11. 72 hours later, in the silent void of orbit, space begins to tear. This isn't the gentle, almost elegant arrival of the divine vein. This is a violent, screaming rupture, as if reality itself is protesting the passage of what's to come. 13 gaping wounds rip open in the fabric of space-time. And from them emerge beings who have long forgotten the feeling of mortality. Down at Camp Dawn, the sky doesn't just change, it screams. Hues of color that have no name and should not exist bleed across the heavens. The fundamental laws of physics start to fray. Gravity fluctuates wildly. One moment, people are floating several feet into the air, gasping in shock. The next, they crash back to the ground with painful thuds, only to begin rising again. The natural world is thrown into chaos. Plants twist toward the sky in unnatural shapes, then wither to dust, only to bloom again with impossible speed and vibrancy. Animals across the camp howl in unison, a chorus of terror, then fall dead silent, then howl once more. Maya staggers, her face pale, grabbing onto Lorenzo's arm to steady herself. The key, the strange artifact secured around her wrist, pulses with an urgent, warm light. She looks up at the horrifying spectacle in the sky, her voice trembling. What are those? Lorenzo's eyes are glued to his sensor arrays, his expression a mixture of disbelief and horror. The screens are blank, utterly blank. My equipment can't even register them, he says, his voice strained. It's not that they're giving off too much energy. They're not giving off any readable energy at all. It's like they are energy, pure conceptual power. Each one of them is a walking apocalypse. Multiple apocalypses. From the main observation post, Finn's voice crackles over the comms, breaking with despair. He's watching the same impossible sky. The Sovereign, he can't fight these. No one can fight these. Grace, ever the strategist, tries to find a sliver of logic in the madness. Then why are they here? She asks, her gaze sweeping over the terrified faces around her. Why come all this way for one planet? It makes no sense. Suddenly, a terrifying realization dawns on Maya. Her hand instinctively clutches the pulsing key on her wrist. Not for the planet, she whispers, her eyes wide with dread. They came for him. She looks from Grace to Lorenzo, her voice gaining a desperate certainty. And if he falls, we all fall. The key, it's warm. It knows. It's warning us. The first to fully emerge from the cosmic wounds arrive in what was once divine territory, the 12th anchor. They are the heralds, the scouts for the horrors that follow. The first is the Crimson Judge. He appears as a figure in flowing red robes, but the robes aren't fabric. They are solidified law, a physical manifestation of absolute judgment. Where his gaze falls, reality itself is judged, worthy or unworthy, pure or impure, exist or cease. His very presence creates a sphere of absolute moral authority. Within this domain, his word defines right and wrong, and his sentence is immediate annihilation. Beside him materializes the Azure Architect. It is a being of living blueprints, its form constantly shifting between the cold perfection of geometric shapes and the unpredictable beauty of organic chaos. Its territory is creation itself. Within its domain, it can build anything from nothing, reshape matter with a thought, and redesign the very fabric of reality to match its whims. It is a fifth minor step, a level of power that exceeds even Kai's known limits. Then, from the 13th tier in space, a portal into a realm known only as Territory Fetal, 7 more beings emerge, and with them, the world truly begins to break. The first is the World Carrier, a giant of impossible scale. Upon its colossal back rests a miniature, living ecosystem-dense forests, winding rivers, towering mountains, even bustling cities, and it's all alive. This ecosystem thinks, it dreams, it wants. The giant's mere presence alters the planet's gravity, its footsteps creating tidal waves in oceans thousands of miles away. Next comes the Void Singer. It is a being of compressed silence, wrapped in shimmering bands of darkness that hum with unborn, terrifying songs. Where it passes, sound ceases to exist, not just noise, but the very concept of sound itself. Her territory fetal is the vast, hungry void between the stars, and its hunger has followed her to this world. A third figure appears, wreathed in a constant storm of embers. This is the Cradle of Ash. It carries a dying star within its chest. A miniature sun that has been dying for 1 billion years and will continue to die for 1 billion more. This endless process of decay is its consciousness. Its territory is entropy. Anything that gets too close to it ages and decays at an accelerated rate, turning to dust in mere seconds. Then, a shifting, shimmering, reflective surface takes form, the mirror mind. It doesn't have a true shape. It shows any observer their own deepest fears and most powerful desires. Its territory is perception. It doesn't show you what is, it shows you what you believe. And its belief is strong enough to overwrite reality itself, making your worst nightmares manifest. A skeletal entity follows, from which an infinite number of bones grow and writhe. This is the Bone Garden. Each bone is a weapon, a tool, or a record of a life it has consumed. Its territory fetal is memory. Every single bone remembers the life it once was, and together they form a constant, whispering chorus of the dead, a sound that can drive any sane mind to madness. From the swirling chaos, a formless mist coalesces, the Dream Eater. It feeds on the subconscious of entire worlds. Its territory is the state of sleep, and it has never truly been awake. It exists in the liminal space between wakefulness and dreaming, and its presence inexorably pulls everything and everyone toward that hazy, inescapable oblivion. Finally, the 8th being emerges. The Iron Birth. It is a massive mechanical womb, birthing sentient war machines continuously. Its territory is production and endless, tireless creation of soldiers that think, feel, and desire only to serve their creator. The machines are its children. It loves them. And it sends them to die for its cause without a moment's hesitation. The final 4 beings emerge, and a palpable shift ripples through the 13. Even the mighty territory fetal beings give way, acknowledging a clear hierarchy. First, the Gilded One, a perfect golden figure radiating a beauty so profound it hurts to look at. Its presence screams wealth, power, and an indifference so absolute it's chilling. Having reached the first minor step of ascension, it views all lesser life as fleeting distractions, mayflies buzzing for a day, morning dew vanishing in the sun. It doesn't hate. It doesn't love. It simply exists, enduring the universe as it unfolds. Next comes the Scream That Walks. It's not a creature of flesh and bone, but a living psychic wound. To even perceive it is to be assaulted by the silent screams of every soul it has ever consumed. Billions of voices, a chorus of eternal agony echoing directly in your mind. It doesn't speak in words. Its very being is a scream, and that scream is its conversation. Then, a hooded figure, the silent gardener. It drifts forward, tending to a garden of ethereal, cosmic flowers. Each shimmering bloom is a world, a civilization it has cultivated and then harvested. Its power is growth, but a predatory, purposeful growth. It plants the seeds of life, nurtures them through ages, and when they are perfectly ripe with potential and spirit, it plucks them. The beautiful flowers in its garden are entire worlds of souls. Finally, the most terrifying of all, the last witness. Ancient beyond measure, it's wrapped in robes that are not fabric, but shifting glimpses of the birth and death of entire galaxies. In its hands, it holds a single colossal book, its pages filled with the records of every event that has ever occurred in existence. It has never been known to speak because it never needs to. Its silent observation is the ultimate judgment. And behind them all, a 13th tier in reality opens. But nothing emerges. There's only a sense of presence, a void that contains everything, a silence that holds all sound. Something watching, waiting, an entity beyond even ascension. It doesn't arrive, it simply is. Down at Camp Dawn, the psychic pressure is catastrophic. People are collapsing, screaming, clutching their heads. Some are unconscious, some weep uncontrollably, while others laugh with the sound of breaking glass, their minds shattered. At the epicenter stands Maya, the key on her wrist blazing with protective light, a tiny shield against an impossible storm. Through gritted teeth, shouting to be heard over the mental chaos, she yells, "Everyone into the shelters now!" But it's useless. No one can move. They're all paralyzed by the sheer presence of 13 beings who have forgotten the very concept of fear. High above, the face of the mountain parts like a curtain. Kai emerges, but not by walking or floating. He rises, ascending on a pillar of pure rainbow light. His nascent soul solidifies beside him, and his apex Genesis core ignites like a second sun in the sky. He ascends to meet them in the upper atmosphere, a single determined figure against 13 cosmic horrors. The Gilded One's voice, dripping with ancient amusement, echoes through space. So small, so young, and yet that core, that foundation. 9 shatterings, yes? The extreme core lives. The World Carrier, a being whose body is a living ecosystem of countless life forms, regards him with cold curiosity. He is not prey. He is a specimen. My ecosystem would like to study him. The silent gardener speaks, its voice like dry soil falling on a coffin lid, a sound not heard in eons. I would cultivate him, plant him in fertile soil, see what grows. His soul would make a beautiful flower. The scream that walks adds its own chilling desire, its voice a symphony of torment in Kai's mind. I would consume him. His screams would be exquisite, a new voice in my chorus. Kai floats calmly, his heart hammering against his ribs, every instinct screaming at him to run, to hide, to cease to exist, but he holds his ground. You traveled across galaxies to discuss me like livestock. I'm flattered, he says, his voice steady. Also disappointed. I expected more imagination from beings who've lived so long. A ripple, a flicker of something new, passes through the cosmic beings. Surprise? Amusement? No, it's interest. Then, the last witness, a being that has recorded epics in silence, speaks. For the first time in its existence, a single word vibrates through every dimension, shaking the fabric of reality itself. Interesting. The Void Singer, a being of compressed silence, surges with eagerness. He has spirit. Let me taste it. It extends a tendril of pure weaponized silence toward Kai. It isn't a full-blown attack, just a test. A casual probe from a territory-fetal being, an expression of curiosity backed by immense power. Kai reacts instantly. His sovereignty principle erupts, creating a shimmering bubble of his own reality around him. The tendril of silence hits it and stops dead. It cannot penetrate. But Kai feels the pressure, the crushing weight of a third minor step being's casual interest. It's like trying to hold back the entire ocean with his bare hands. A crack appears in the Void Singer's eternal silence, its voice laced with genuine surprise. He resists. A nascent soul resisting territory fetal? This is unprecedented. The mirror mind's surface shifts, reflecting Kai, but the reflection is different, older, stronger, crowned with a halo of stars. His Tao is complex. Creation, sovereignty, order, evolution, a quad Tao foundation. Rare, very rare, And his future I can't see, something powerful is blocking the way. The cradle of ash, a being wreathed in the embers of dead stars, hisses. Rare means valuable. Valuable means claimed. I claim first harvest rights. My children would learn from him, growls the Ironbirth, a creature of living, evolving metal. His adaptations would improve their design. The Dream Eater's voice is a seductive whisper. His dreams. I can taste them from here. Hope, determination, such rich dreams. I want them. His bones would sing in my collection, chimes the Bone Garden, its form a macabre sculpture of countless skeletons. A new voice in the chorus of the dead. Finally, the Azure Architect, a fifth-step divine territory being, speaks for the first time. Its voice is like celestial blueprints unfolding across the cosmos. Before you claim and consume and harvest, perhaps we should determine what he actually is. I have studied his energy signature from orbit. It does not match any known cultivation path. The extreme core is supposed to be a myth, yet here he stands that warrants investigation before destruction. But another being cuts in, its voice sharp and absolute. The Crimson Judge, robed in the color of finality. Investigation is judgment deferred. I do not defer judgment. I will judge him now. The Crimson Judge stepped forward, his very presence warping reality. His territory, a field of absolute power, expanded in a heartbeat, swallowing Kai whole. The cold expanse of space vanished. One moment Kai was floating in the upper atmosphere. The next he was standing on a vast, endless plain of blood-red earth under a crimson sky. Towering pillars, impossibly high, shot up from the ground, each one inscribed with glowing, intricate symbols. Kai couldn't read the language, yet he understood their meaning instinctively. These were the laws of the cosmos, the fundamental rules that governed all existence. The Crimson Judge loomed over him, no longer just a figure but a force of nature. His voice boomed, not through the air, but directly into Kai's soul. You stand before the court of absolute morality. I am judge, jury, and executioner. Your actions will be weighed, your worth will be measured, your fate will be decided. Kai, despite the overwhelming pressure, kept his composure. He scanned the impossible landscape, his mind racing, assessing the situation. And what laws do you judge by? He called out, his voice steady. Yours, or something universal? The judge's form seemed to solidify even further. The laws are absolute, it declared. They apply to all beings, in all realities. You have violated them simply by existing outside your designated station. A nascent soul should not challenge a territory feudal. A mortal should not draw the attention of ascension. Your existence is an aberration. Aberrations must be corrected. A bitter laugh almost escaped Kai's lips. So your judgment is predetermined, he stated, his eyes locking onto the entity before him. This is just a show. This is justice, the Crimson Judge retorted, its tone final and unyielding. And with that, the trial began. The judge raised a single colossal hand. In response, the red plane itself came alive. Chains, forged not of metal but of pure, solidified law, erupted from the ground. They shot towards Kai with unerring accuracy, wrapping around his arms, his legs, his throat, and his very core. They seared his skin, not with heat, but with the crushing weight of cosmic rule. It was a pain that went beyond the physical, a violation of his very being. First charge, the judge boomed, its voice echoing from the pillars of law. Defiance of hierarchy. A being of the 8th anchor dares to stand before those of the 12th, 13th, and 14th. For this, the penalty is erasure. Kai gritted his teeth, pouring his will, his very essence, into breaking free. His sovereign will, the force that had let him defy kings and cultivators, flared to life, but it was useless. These chains weren't physical constructs. They were principles, truths of the universe given form. He couldn't break them with will alone. He could only break them with a higher law, a greater truth. And he didn't have one. The chains tightened, squeezing the air from his lungs. Second charge, the judge continued, its voice merciless. Corruption of natural order. You have achieved the extreme core, a forbidden path that should have killed you. Your continued existence mocks the natural progression of cultivation. For this, the penalty is eternal imprisonment. The pressure intensified. Kai's vision began to blur at the edges, the crimson world swimming before him. His nascent soul, the miniature version of himself that resided in his core, cried out in a silent scream. It tried to lend its power, to fight back, but it too was ensnared by the inescapable laws, bound and helpless. Third charge, the judge pronounced, its voice dripping with righteous condemnation. Protection of the unworthy. You shield a world of primitives, elevating them above their station. They should have died in the emergence. You preserved them. You interfered with natural selection. For this, the penalty is the destruction of all you protect, witnessed by you before your own erasure. The thought of Earth being annihilated because of him sent a spike of pure, unadulterated rage through Kai's spirit. Blood seeped from his lips as he strained against the chains, the words forced through his gritted teeth. You don't judge me. I judge all, the Crimson Judge stated with perfect, unwavering certainty. It is my nature. It is my purpose. It is my right. That word right ignited something within Kai, a spark of defiance in the face of absolute authority. You're right, he spat, the words laced with blood and contempt, is given by power. Not truth. You judge because you can, not because you should. A flicker of something disturbed the judge's eternal certainty. A millisecond of hesitation in an eternity of conviction. What? Kai felt a surge of adrenaline. He had found a crack in the armor. I said, he repeated, his voice gaining strength. Your judgment is just power, dressed up as principle. You're not a judge. You're a tyrant with a gavel. The chains trembled, but it wasn't from Kai's struggle. It was a subtle external vibration. Something else was at play. Something inside his pocket. The smooth, unassuming stone he'd carried with him. The cosmic infinite Ascension God Stone. It began to glow, not with light, but with presence. It was as if a sun was waking up inside his pocket, its warmth spreading through his battered body. And then, the impossible happened. The chains of law, the unbreakable absolute rules of the cosmos, slackened. Just slightly. Just enough for Kai to gasp a full, ragged breath. A voice, ancient and vast, whispered not in his ears but in the deepest corners of his mind. It was a voice that felt like the quiet hum of distant galaxies, a dream just on the edge of waking. Not yet, the voice of the Ascension God Stone whispered, but almost, this being's judgment, it offends me. It offends what I am. Hold on, host, just a little longer. The Crimson Judge felt the shift instantly. Its dominion, its absolute control over its territory, flickered like a dying candle in a storm. It recoiled, a hint of confusion, maybe even fear in its cosmic gaze. What? What is that? It demanded, its voice losing its booming quality. What do you carry? Despite the pain, despite the blood, a genuine smile spread across Kai's face. Something you can't judge, he said, his voice ringing with newfound confidence. Something that judges judges. The Crimson Judge retreated, pulling its territory back. The red plane dissolved, and Kai found himself once more floating in the upper atmosphere of Earth, the other cosmic beings observing the exchange. The chains of law had vanished. The Azure Architect, a being of pure thought and design, seemed to hum with curiosity. Fascinating, it communicated to the others. His energy signature shifted. Something protected him. Something old, powerful. The World Carrier, a being whose back bore the weight of entire mountains, stepped forward, his gaze fixed on Kai. A low growl rumbled from his chest. Let me try, he said, his voice like grinding stone. Not judgment pressure. Let's see if he breaks. He extended a single, massive hand. One of the colossal peaks on his back trembled, then detached, lifting into the air. It soared across the sky, a continent's worth of stone and earth aimed directly at Kai. This wasn't an attack meant to kill, not in the traditional sense. It was a test of pure, overwhelming force, a 13th anchor's might brought to bear against a mere 8th anchor cultivator. The very air compressed under the mountain's descent, shrieking as it was displaced. Kai stood his ground, his expression unreadable. His gaze was sharp, focused not on the mountain itself but on the space it occupied. He raised a hand, his fingers tracing an intricate pattern in the air. Principle of order, spatial reconfiguration. The impossible happened. Just as the mountain was about to crush him, reality seemed to fold. The colossal mass didn't strike an invisible wall. It bent around it, the stone twisting and contorting as if space itself was a piece of fabric being pinched. With a final, elegant gesture from Kai, the mountain reversed its course, flying back towards its origin. The World Carrier caught the mountain with a grunt, his feet sinking several inches into the ground from the returned momentum. His eyes were wide with disbelief. He reflected my attack. he murmured, his voice laced with awe. With my own force. Using an 8th anchor technique against a 13th anchor attack. That's not possible. Before the echo of his words faded, the Void Singer, a being draped in shadows that seemed to drink the light, moved. They didn't speak a word. Instead, they unleashed a wave of absolute silence. This wasn't the absence of sound. It was the absence of existence itself. Where the wave passed, concepts began to fade. The color of the grass, the idea of the wind, the memory of warmth all frayed at the edges, threatening to be erased from reality. It was the third minor step of Territory Fetal, a power designed to unmake things. The silent wave washed over Kai. The world went muted, then blank. For a moment, he felt his own consciousness start to unravel. But from deep within his core, another principle rose. Principle of creation, sound from silence. From the center of Kai's chest, a single pure note rang out. It wasn't music, not in any way a mortal could understand. It was the idea of music, the concept of sound itself, given form by his Tao. It was a creation born from absolute nothingness. The wave of silence, a force that could erase reality, shattered against it. It couldn't consume something that hadn't existed a moment before, but the effort was immense. Kai staggered back, a thin line of blood trickling from his nose. His vision swam, the world blurring into a kaleidoscope of dizzying colors. The Void Singer drew back, the shadows around them swirling in agitation. He creates ex nihilo, a voice whispered, seemingly from the shadows themselves. That is not a nascent soul technique. That is something else. Something older. Next came the Cradle of Ash, an entity of slow, inevitable decay. She sighed, and a wave of pure entropy rolled outwards. It was the heat death of a localized reality, the inexorable march of time accelerated into a single devastating pulse. Below Kai, his carefully tended garden withered in an instant, vibrant green turning to brown dust. The entire camp felt the touch of ages. Wood splintered, metal rusted, and Maya, watching with wide eyes, gasped as streaks of gray flashed through her hair. A small key around her wrist pulsed with soft light, reversing the effect just on her, a tiny sanctuary in a sea of decay. Kai stood in the center of the entropic wave. His clothes frayed, but his skin did not wrinkle. His hair did not gray. Principle of evolution, anti-entropy. His body didn't simply resist the decay, it adapted. His evolutionary lattice, the very framework of his being, spun into overdrive, analyzing the incoming energy and generating countermeasures in real time. His cells learned to see the force of aging not as a threat, but as another form of energy. The wave of entropy passed through him. And where it should have left a husk, it left him unchanged, even revitalized. He was breathing hard now, the strain finally showing. His knees buckled for a moment before he forced them straight. The Cradle of Ash stared, her form flickering like a dying flame. He consumed my entropy. Converted it to power. A 13th anchor technique, consumed by an 8th anchor being. That's unprecedented, that's impossible. One final test remained. The mirror mind, a being of pure consciousness, didn't unleash a physical or energetic attack. It reached directly into Kai's soul. Suddenly, Kai was no longer in the clearing. He was back in the past, reliving his deepest, most painful failure. The betrayal that had shattered his world played out before him, but this time it was worse, infinitely worse. Every survivor he had sworn to protect, every person who had trusted him, died because he had failed. He saw Camp Dawn burning, the flames consuming everything he had built. He saw his garden wither to ash. He saw Maya's body, broken on the ground, the key fallen from her wrist, its light extinguished. Kai staggered, a guttural cry of anguish tearing from his throat. Tears streamed down his face. No. The despair was a physical weight crushing his spirit, threatening to break him where the other tests had failed. But as he fell to his knees in the illusion, something touched his mind. A presence, both a part of him and separate, reached out. A miniature, glowing version of himself, his nascent soul, materialized before him, its hand gently touching his forehead. A whisper echoed not in his ears, but in the core of his being. "That was your past," the nascent soul said, its voice calm and steady. "This is your present. The future is unwritten. You are not that man anymore. You are more. You are us." "You're right, I'm not, thank you. For reminding me why I fight." The mirror mind reeled back, its reflective surface rippling with confusion. The boy, Kai, with his short black hair and simple clothes, should have been broken. The fear it had shown him, the terror of absolute failure, was supposed to shatter his will. Instead, a smile spread across his face, a smile that cost him everything, that drew on reserves he didn't know he had. The confusion on the mirror mind's surface turned to a dawning horror. He grew stronger from my attack. My deepest fear probe empowered him. That's unprecedented, that's terrifying. But there was no time for Kai to recover. The Bone Garden, a grotesque entity of skeletal remains, unleashed its ultimate assault. A storm of bone weapons rained down from the void above. Millions of them, spears, swords, axes, each one forged from a life it had taken, a soul it had consumed. Every single weapon carried the crushing weight of a murdered soul, an army of vengeful ghosts given physical form to tear Kai apart. The air screamed with their collective agony. Kai stood his ground, his eyes closed for a moment. He raised a hand, his voice steady despite the tremor running through his body. Principle of sovereignty, domain of peace. A sphere of pure golden calm expanded from him. It was small, barely 10 meters wide, a tiny bubble of tranquility in a hurricane of death. As the rain of bone weapons entered the sphere, their furious momentum slowed. They stopped mid-air, their murderous intent dissolving like mist. Then, one by one, they clattered harmlessly to the ground, pacified, their connection to the Bone Garden's rage severed by the absolute authority of Kai's will. Kai was trembling, the effort clearly immense, but he held the line. The Bone Garden itself shuddered. He disarmed me. Without violence. He pacified my weapons. A 13th anchor's weapons, pacified by an 8th anchor's will. That's not supposed to happen. Before the last bone had even settled, the Dream Eater struck. A being of living nightmare, it plunged its essence into Kai's subconscious, seeking to devour his hopes and aspirations. It latched onto his dreams of a better world, a peaceful existence, a future where humanity thrived under his protection. It began to feed, to gorge on the purest parts of his soul. But instead of fighting, Kai laughed, a weak, breathless sound. "You want my dreams? Take them. I'll make new ones." The Dream Eater gorged itself. Swelling with the stolen energy of Kai's hopes, a feeling of deep satisfaction washing over it. This was an easy victory. But then, it convulsed, a tremor ran through its parasitic form. The dreams it had consumed were not just food, they were seeds. Deep within its being, Kai's hopes began to grow, not as fuel but as life. They sprouted, transforming the predator from within. Ideas of peace, of protection, of caring, began to bloom in a mind that had only ever known consumption and hunger. The Dream Eater recoiled in horror, its form rippling with this unwanted internal growth. He planted something in me. I can feel it. Growing, changing me, making me care? What is this? What is this? The final test came from the Iron Birth, the master of artificial warfare. It released a swarm of 1,000 war machines. Each was a marvel of destructive engineering designed to adapt and overcome any defense. They swarmed Kai, their optical sensors glowing as they analyzed his energy, his movements, preparing to overwhelm him with superior tactics and overwhelming numbers. Kai's voice was a rasp. Principle of creation. Better machines. From the golden aura still clinging to him, a single, new construct emerged. It was not a weapon of war but a thing of beauty, a crystalline entity that hummed with a celestial song as it moved. It drifted towards the mechanical swarm. It touched the first war machine. The machine stopped dead. Then it turned, its weapons aimed not at Kai, but at its nearest sibling. One by one, the angelic construct touched the war machines, and one by one, they stopped their assault on Kai and began to systematically dismantle each other. His creation wasn't just stronger, it was simply better. The moment the last machine fell, Kai's strength gave out. He collapsed to one knee, gasping for air. Blood streamed from his nose, his ears, the corners of his eyes. He had pushed himself far beyond his limits. The Iron Birth watched, its mechanical voice filled not with anger, but with something akin to reverence. He outcreated me. In my own domain. A 13th anchor, outcreated by an 8th anchor. That's worthy of recording. That's worthy of respect. High above, the 4 observers from the Ascension watched the impossible unfold. The Gilded One, shimmering in its own light, spoke first. He passed all 7 tests. A nascent soul, matching territory fetal beings in their own domains. Multiple domains. He's not just exceptional, he's unprecedented. The silent gardener, a being of patient, cosmic growth, corrected him. He did not match them. He exceeded them. His Tao adapts, learns, grows in real time. He is not static. He is evolution incarnate. I have never seen anything like this in all my harvests. The scream that walks, a collector of cosmic horrors, shivered with a new, dark desire. I want him more now than before. His screams would be the centerpiece of my collection. The voice that outcreated creation itself. The last witness simply wrote, its pen scratching furiously across the pages of its infinite book. The extreme one proves worthy of extended observation. His capabilities exceed all recorded parameters. Recommend continued interest. And caution. Then, a voice cut through the void. A voice of immense power that belonged to the fifth step, the divine territory, the Azure Architect. He has passed 7 tests from the 13th anchor. He has resisted judgment from the 12th. He has drawn the attention of the 14th, and yet, he is still just an 8th anchor. Imagine what he would become at the 9th, the 10th, the 11th. Another divine territory being, the Crimson Judge, responded with cold fury. He will not reach those realms. He will be destroyed, now, by us. The World Carrier, a being the size of a galaxy, agreed. I agree. He is too dangerous to leave unchecked. A being who can do this at the 8th anchor. At the 12th, he could challenge gods. At the 15th, he could rewrite reality. He must be eliminated. The consensus was swift and absolute. Elimination. Yes, but slowly, hissed the Void Singer. I want to taste his silence as it happens. I want to feel his entropy, rumbled the Cradle of Ash. I want to see his fear, the Mirror Mind declared, its surface now smooth and cold. I want his bones, growled the Bone Garden. I want his dreams, whispered the Dream Eater, still fighting the change within it. I want his designs, stated the Iron Birth, its respect replaced by cold logic. The 7 territory fetal beings agreed. The 2 divine territory beings nodded their assent. The 4 from the Ascension watched, curious to see the final act. And behind them all, an unknown, unseen presence stirred, its interest piqued. Down below, on his knees in the upper atmosphere, Kai looked up. He was surrounded by 13 beings of unimaginable power who had just sentenced him to death. He was broken, bleeding, exhausted beyond measure. He had nothing left to give. But in his pocket, the strange stone he carried was warm. And it was getting warmer, hotter. He let out a final, whispered plea to the only ally he had left. Now would be a really good time to wake up. And from the stone, a voice answered. A voice that contained multitudes, that had seen the birth and death of realities. A voice that spoke and reality itself listened. I am awake, host, and I am angry. It was the stone, the AGS consciousness, and it was awake. These beings threaten you, it declared, its mental voice calm but carrying the weight of galaxies. They speak of elimination and consumption, as if your existence is a crop to be reaped. They do not know who they address. They do not know what you carry. Let me educate them. And then the voice went beyond Kai. It spoke to everything. It echoed across every dimension, vibrated on every frequency, and traveled along every possible wavelength of reality. The territory fetal beings felt it rattling their very bones, a vibration that threatened to unmake them. The ascension beings heard it in the core of their souls, a sound that challenged the very laws they embodied. And far behind them, a mysterious 13th presence trembled, its shadowy form contracting in on itself. The AGS consciousness announced its presence to the invaders. You stand before the host of the cosmic infinite Ascension God Stone, the only one of its kind in all of existence. The stone released a single, silent wave of energy. It wasn't a beam or a blast, just an omnidirectional sphere of pure, unfiltered reality. It passed through Kai gently, a wave of warmth that mended the microfractures in his bones and soothed the exhaustion in his soul. It washed over Earth, and across the globe, the lingering scars of the apocalypse began to heal. Poisoned rivers ran clean, irradiated wastelands became fertile, and the very air seemed to sweeten. And then, it passed through the beings who had threatened him. Their very concepts plucked from the fabric of reality as if they had never been. The world carrier's mountains crumbled into dust. The void singer's eternal silence became absolute nothingness. The cradle of Ash's dying star winked out. The mirror mind shattered into reflections of emptiness. The bone garden's skeletal landscape turned to dust. The dream eater's sinister mist dissipated into dreams that would never be dreamed. The Ironbirth's legion of war machines rusted and faded into nothing. 7 cosmic horrors, each capable of ending worlds erased in an instant. As its beautiful, terrifying garden of souls burned to ash. The stone, the legend, the one that should not exist. We were warned, the ancients told stories, but we did not believe, we thought it was myth. For the second time in its existence, the last witness speaking, its voice cracking with something that might be fear, might be awe, might be both. Only one of the 4 remained. The last witness, its form flickering violently, its great book of history now reduced to a few charred pages, drifted in space, broken but alive, a mercy, perhaps, or a message. A message that was clearly understood. The portal for the unknown watcher behind them snapped shut. Whatever was observing had fled in absolute terror. In high orbit, a fleet of divine vessels witnessed the instantaneous annihilation of 10 cosmic entities. Panic erupted. Without hesitation, every ship fired its FTO drive, scattering across the galaxy like startled insects. They would carry the warning to 50 different galaxies. Do not approach Terra. The source is protected. The stone is real. The stone is awake. From the observation post, Finn's odd voice came over the comms. Look at the mountain. Look at the light. A pillar of soft rainbow light rose into the sky. It swept over the camp, and in its gentle warmth, every wound was healed, every illness cured, and every fear was soothed. Grace watched, tears streaming down her face. He did it, she breathed. He actually did it. Maya shook her head slowly. No, something helped him. Something older. In the upper atmosphere, Kai floated alone. The stone had returned to his pocket, its consciousness retreating but no longer dormant. You could have done that from the beginning, he said, his voice cracking with emotion. Why wait? Why let me suffer through all those tests? The AGS consciousness replied, its voice warm like a father's hand on a child's shoulder. Because you needed to become. Power given is power wasted. Power earned is power eternal. You earned this moment. You earned my awakening. You earned the right to carry me, but I almost died. Multiple times. Kai's voice shakes as he speaks. And you did not. The AGS consciousness speaks. You fought. You adapted. You evolved. You proved that you are worthy of what I represent. Rest now, host. You have done enough. And when you wake, we will talk about your future, about your potential, and about the realms you will yet conquer. The stone falls silent, but its warmth remains, a constant presence, a reminder that Kai is no longer alone in the deepest sense. Kai turned his attention to the last witness, the sole survivor. You survived. Why? He asked. The witness's voice was a whisper of ash and ancient parchment. Because I witnessed. That is all I have ever done. I do not judge. I do not act. I only record. The stone, it recognized that. It spared me to carry the warning. And what will you record now? Kai asked. The being looked at Kai with ancient, broken eyes. The stone does not just grant power. The last witness says, it unlocks potential. With it awake, your cultivation will accelerate. The realms that seemed distant, divine territory, territory feudal, ascension, they are now within reach. Not tomorrow, not next year, but soon. And when you achieve them, the galaxy will tremble. The last witness faded it. Broken form retreating into whatever dimension it came from. Its final words echoing, grow well, sovereign. The galaxy watches. And now, it waits. Maya stands at the edge of the garden, looking at the mountain. The sky is clear. The fleet is gone. The horrors are vanquished. For the first time since the apocalypse began, the stars look like stars again, distant, beautiful, peaceful. To her people, gathered behind her, their faces lit by the garden's gentle glow. May speaks. We don't know what happened up there. We may never fully understand. But we know this. Whatever protects that mountain, whatever walks out of it when we're threatened, it is on our side. It has always been on our side. She holds up the key on her wrist, now glowing with steady, warm light, saying, and it trusts us. It gave us this key not as a weapon but as a responsibility. We are the stewards of this world. We are the ones who will build the future. Not in fear of what's out there, but in hope of what we can become, under the sovereign's protection. The camp erupts in quiet celebration, not wild, not desperate, but peaceful. Children play in the glowing garden. Adults share food, stories, hope. For the first time in months, they sleep without fear. Kai returned to his realm, the stone warm in his pocket. He sat heavily on his platform, exhaustion finally claiming him, but a genuine smile on his face. The domain steward's voice was full of awe. Master, I have no words. The energy released by the stone, it exceeded my ability to measure. It exceeded my ability to conceptualize. 7 territory feudal beings erased. 3 ascension beings destroyed. 2 divine territory beings, collateral damage. 1 spared as a witness. The divine vein fleet scattered across 50 galaxies. The unknown presence fled in terror. Kai stared at the ceiling, peaceful. I've been carrying a weapon that could erase gods. All this time, and I never knew. You knew it was powerful. It was unique, but its true nature was dormant, the steward replied, waiting for you to prove yourself worthy of its awakening. And now, Kai asked, now the galaxy knows. 50 galaxies felt that energy wave. They felt 10 cosmic beings fall. They know that Terra is not a world to be conquered. It is a world to be revered or avoided. The choice is theirs. Kai let out a slow, tired, satisfied smile. Good. Let them be afraid. Let them wonder. Let them send diplomats instead of armies. And let me rest. You have earned it, Master. But when you wake, the stone awaits. And with it, a future beyond anything we have imagined. I know, Kai said. And for the first time, I'm not afraid of what comes next. Kai, resting in his realm, the stone glowing faintly in his pocket. Then out through the mountain, past the garden where children play, past the celebrating camp, past the empty sky where gods once threatened. Past the scattered, fleeing fleet, each vessel carrying terror to 50 galaxies. Past the broken last witness, drifting through space, Its charred book open to a new page, writing the final entry. Terra, Sovereign Kai, the stone awakens. Approach with reverence, or approach not at all. This is the only warning. Out to the galaxy beyond, where 50 civilizations just felt the death scream of 10 cosmic powers. The galaxy now asks the same question. What protects that world, and how do we survive its attention? The answer echoes across the void. You don't. You simply acknowledge. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe for more. This is the end of episode 11. See you next time.